The crystal chandeliers of Federation Central Station's Grand Hall. REFLECTED light from 1,000 sources, casting prismatic patterns across the assembled delegates. Ambassador Thorin Kale stood at the podium, his silver robes shimmering with each gesture, as he raised a ceremonial glass filled with Andraxian wine, the finest in the known galaxy. My esteemed colleagues, Thorin's voice resonated through the chamber, amplified by sonic projectors embedded in the walls. Today marks the end of a chapter that threatened the very fabric of our civilized order. 20 standard years ago, humanity vanished from their settlements. Their worlds fell silent. Their ships disappeared. And now, after 2 decades of careful observation, we can officially declare Earth and all its colonies are extinct. Applause erupted from the gathered representatives of 47 species. Thorin absorbed it like solar radiation, his satisfaction visible in the proud set of his shoulders. He had orchestrated this moment for years, implementing the enclosure protocol that strangled human expansion, restricted their trade routes, and isolated them from potential allies. It had been elegant in its execution, no direct warfare, no messy invasions, simply the slow tightening of economic chains until humanity had no choice but to submit. They had chosen to disappear instead. Even better, Thorin thought. Near the back of the hall, Lyssa Turn sat quietly, her Mirana features delicate bone structure, luminescent eyes drawing little attention in the celebration. As an observer for the Mirana Confederacy, she held no voting power, no political influence. She was expected to watch, record, and report. Nothing more. But something gnawed at her. Something didn't fit. "Why are you not celebrating?" The voice came from beside her, a human voice. Marcus Webb, one of the few humans who had remained in Federation space, worked as a maintenance technician on the station. Most delegates never noticed him. Lyssa had made it a point to notice everyone. "I'm not sure there's anything to celebrate," Lyssa replied quietly, her eyes fixed on Thorin's triumphant face. "A species vanishing isn't a victory. It's a tragedy." Marcus's weathered face creased in what might have been a smile. "Is that what you think happened? That we vanished?" Before Lyssa could respond, High Magistrate Ven descended from his elevated platform. The ancient Veltharian moved with deliberate slowness, his crystalline exoskeleton clicking softly with each step. At 300 standard years old, Ven had seen empires rise and fall, watched species evolve and collapse. This moment, however, represented the crowning achievement of his administration. "The human question," Ven began, his voice like wind chimes in a storm, "has plagued this Federation for 6 decades. From the moment they achieved faster-than-light travel and stumbled into our territories, they brought disruption. They questioned our laws, challenged our hierarchies, and worst of all, they inspired others to do the same." Lyssa felt her stomach tighten. The history wasn't exactly as Ven described it. She had read the classified files, the real ones, not the sanitized versions presented to the public. Humans had joined the Federation eagerly, offering their technology, their art, their perspective. They had been allies to weaker species, champions for those without voices in the Council. That had been their crime. Not disruption for its own sake, but disruption of the comfortable order that kept certain species in power and others in servitude. The enclosure protocol was necessary, then continued. We gave them boundaries appropriate for a developing species. We limited their expansion for their own protection. When they refused to accept these wise restrictions, he paused for effect. Nature took its course. More applause. Lisa noticed that not all delegates were clapping. A few Kelverans sat silently, their crystalline faces unreadable. The Drexian ambassador looked uncomfortable, and the handful of human sympathetic species that remained studiously examined their data tablets. Lisa pulled up her personal device, accessing the public records of the human exodus. The official Federation report was sparse after implementing economic sanctions. In response to unauthorized expansion, human colonies began systematic evacuation. Final transmissions received 18.7 standard years ago. No distress signals detected. Presumed mass casualties due to inadequate preparation and hostile environment of destination region. But Lisa had dug deeper during the weeks before this celebration. She had requisitioned sensor logs, communication archives, shipping manifests. What she found didn't match the narrative of a desperate, doomed escape. The human evacuation had been militarily precise. Every colony emptied within a 6-month window. Ships departed in coordinated waves, each with specific cargo manifests showing strategic resource allocation. Population transfers followed optimized patterns suggesting advanced logistical planning. Most damning of all, not a single human vessel had sent a distress signal or requested aid. They hadn't fled in panic. They had executed a planned withdrawal. "Marcus," Lisa whispered, "where did your people go?" The human janitor's eyes sparkled with something that looked suspiciously like mischief. "That's the right question, Observer Turn. Took you long enough to ask it." Before she could press him further, alarms began chirping softly throughout the hall. Junior technicians glanced at their displays, frowned, and checked again. The celebration's momentum faltered as more delegates noticed the disturbance. "What's the meaning of this interruption?" Thorin demanded, his tone sharp with irritation. A sensor technician stood nervously, her antenna quivering. "Ambassador, we're detecting unusual readings from the dead reaches. Multiple spatial anomalies manifesting simultaneously. The dead reaches a region of space so hostile that even the Federation's most advanced vessels avoided it. Intense radiation, gravitational whirlpools, and spatial rifts made navigation impossible. It was the direction human ships had fled decades ago, towards certain annihilation. Solar flares, Thorin dismissed. Continue the festivities. But the anomalies didn't dissipate. They intensified. Lisa watched her data tablet as the readings spiked across the spectrum. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist. Spatial coordinates folding in on themselves. And something else, something emerging. The main display activated automatically, overriding the celebration's programmed visuals. Federation Central Station's external sensors showed the edge of their territory, where civilization met the cosmic wasteland space. Tor. There was no other word for it. Reality ripped open like fabric, revealing something beyond. Through the tiers came ships' vessels unlike anything in Federation records. Their hulls bore no resemblance to known designs, incorporating curves and angles that seemed to shift as Lissa watched. They were beautiful and terrifying, organic and mechanical, impossible yet undeniably present. One ship emerged, then 10, then 100. The celebration died completely, replaced by stunned silence as the count climbed. 500, 1,000, 2,000. The sensors struggled to track them all as more kept appearing through tears in space itself. Thorin's face had gone pale, his silver robes suddenly looking more like a burial shroud than a celebration garment. This is impossible. They're dead. They're gone. But the display showed otherwise. 8,000 ships hung at the edge of Federation space, their formation perfect, their purpose unclear, each vessel pulsed with energy signatures. That made Federation technology look primitive by comparison, then moved to the command console, his ancient composure finally cracking. Hail them! Demand identification. The response came instantly, broadcast across all frequencies. A woman's voice, human, calm, carrying authority earned rather than inherited. This is Commander Eleanor Vasquez of the Covenant Fleet, on behalf of the Free People's Alliance. We've returned to Federation space. A pause. Then words that would echo through history. We didn't come to conquer. We came to invite. The transmission included visual. A woman in her 40s. Dark hair streaked with gray. Wearing a uniform that incorporated design elements from at least 6 different species. Behind her, the bridge showed crew members from various races working in seamless coordination. Kelvrans, Drexians, and others Lissa didn't recognize, and humans. Everywhere, humans working alongside species that had supposedly died out or fled Federation space decades ago. Impossible, Thorin whispered, but his voice cracked. We destroyed them. The sanctions, the isolation. They couldn't have survived. Marcus stood, drawing attention for the first time in his anonymous career. You didn't destroy us, Ambassador. You freed us. He smiled, and Lissa saw tears in his eyes. You forced us to leave behind everything we thought we needed. And out there, in the place you considered death itself, we found something you never understood. What? Lissa asked, though she thought she knew the answer. We found others who had been cast aside. Species you deemed unworthy, civilizations you crushed, refugees from your benevolent expansion. And together, we found something else, remnants of those who came before. The architects, the name meant nothing to Lissa, but Ven's crystalline face shifted color, a Veltharian sign of shock. The architects are myth, Ven said, but uncertainty clouded his voice. They were real. Commander Vasquez's voice came through the speakers, and they left behind technology that makes your Federation look like children playing with stones. But more than that, they left instructions, knowledge, a test. The display shifted, showing images that made the entire hall gasp. Vast cities floating in space, worlds terraformed into paradises, megastructures that dwarfed anything the Federation had built. And everywhere, multiple species working together, not in hierarchies, but as equals. For 20 years, Vasquez continued, we've been building what you said was impossible. A civilization without dominance, without economic chains, without species ranked as superior or inferior. The architects showed us how, but we had to be willing to try. Thorin slammed his fist on the console. This is an invasion. Federation fleet. Battle stations. Prepare to defend our territory. 300 Federation warships moved into defensive positions. Weapons charging. Shields activating. The display showed their formations' tactics refined over centuries of warfare, representing the military might of 47 species. The human fleet didn't advance. They simply waited, their weapons dark, their shields holding steady. "We're not here to fight," Vasquez said, and her voice carried such conviction that even Thorin hesitated. "We're here to offer what we found: freedom, equality, purpose. Anyone who wants to leave Federation space and join us is welcome, human or otherwise. You have no authority." Thorin shouted, "We're not asking for authority. We're offering choice." Another pause. "We learned patience from you, Ambassador. We learned that sometimes the best response to tyranny isn't violence. It's proving there's something better." Lyssa stood, her legs trembling. "I want to see it. Your cities, your worlds. I want to verify your claims." Observer turn. Thorin rounded on her. "You will sit down and—" "I'm a Mirana observer. You can't order me." She looked at the display, at Commander Vasquez's steady gaze. "If what you're showing is real, the entire galaxy needs to know. If it's propaganda, we need to expose it. Either way, I'm requesting permission to visit your territory." Marcus moved to stand beside her. "I'll go too. Been waiting 20 years to go home." Then raised a crystalline hand for silence. "Commander Vasquez, you claim to offer choice. Prove it. Take our observer. Let her see everything. If your civilization is as you describe, we will consider your offer." "Agreed," Vasquez replied. "But I want to broadcast one message first, to everyone in Federation space, before Thorin could object." Every screen in Federation territory lit up with the same transmission. Commander Vasquez spoke directly to billions of individuals across 47 species. "My name is Eleanor Vasquez. 20 years ago, humanity faced a choice: submit to Federation dominance or leave everything behind. We chose to leave. In the dead reaches, we found others who had faced the same choice. Together, we built something new. A place where your species doesn't determine your value. Where cooperation replaces competition. Where everyone has a voice." Images played behind her words, images of the impossible made real. "We're offering that same choice now. Anyone who wants a different life, we'll take you. We'll teach you what we learned. We'll share what we found. The decision is yours, not your government's, not your ambassadors. Yours." The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, Lyssa heard the first ping of an incoming message. Then another. Then 100. Then thousands. Defection requests flooding in from across Federation space. Thorin stared at the console in horror, then looked as though his crystalline structure might shatter, and Marcus smiled with quiet satisfaction. "They won," Marcus said softly. "Not with weapons or threats. They won by building something so good that people would risk everything to have it." Lyssa downloaded the coordinates for the rendezvous point, her heart pounding. She was about to witness either the greatest lie ever told, or the most profound transformation in galactic history. Either way, nothing would ever be the same. present day Federation Central Station diplomatic shuttle bearing observer Lissa Turn, and Marcus Webb departed under the watchful eyes of 300 Federation warships. Commander Vasquez had provided safe passage coordinates, but Thorin Kale had insisted on a military escort for security purposes, he'd claimed, though everyone knew it was to maintain some illusion of control. Inside the shuttle, Lissa reviewed everything she knew about the human exodus, which, she was beginning to realize, was very little. "You stayed behind," she said to Marcus, who sat calmly reviewing his own data tablet. "For 20 years, you pretended to be just a janitor. Why?" Marcus looked up, his weathered face creasing into a sad smile. "Someone had to stay, to watch, to remember what the Federation did to us, in case," he trailed off. "In case what? In case we failed. In case the dead reaches really did kill us, and we needed someone to tell the real story." He set down his tablet. "But we didn't fail, Observer Turn. We succeeded beyond our wildest projections. And now you'll see why." The shuttle approached the coordinates, and Lissa's sensors began registering impossible readings. Space itself was folding, bending, creating a passage where none should exist. The Federation escort ships stopped at the boundary, their commanders refusing to proceed further into what their instruments screamed was a catastrophic spatial anomaly. The shuttle plunged forward, reality twisted. Colors Lissa had no names for flashed past the viewports. Her instruments showed them occupying multiple coordinates simultaneously. Time seemed to stretch and compress. Just when she thought she might scream from the disorientation, everything snapped into sudden, crystal clarity. They had arrived. Lissa stared through the viewport, her breath catching in her throat. Before her stretched a pocket of space that shouldn't exist, a bubble of stable reality, nested within the chaos of the dead reaches. And within that bubble, welcome, Commander Vasquez's voice came through the comm. To the Architect's realm. 20 years earlier, the last voyager, Sarah Okonkwo, stood on the bridge of the colony ship Perseverance, watching Earth shrink in the rear viewports. Around her, the largest evacuation in human history was underway, millions of people fleeing not from enemy fleets, but from economic strangulation. "Final count?" she asked her first officer. "All 700 colony ships accounted for. 11 million people in total. Everything we couldn't carry was archived in quantum storage." Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of what they'd done. Humanity was abandoning everything they built in Federation space homes, infrastructure, decades of development. The Federation's enclosure protocol had left them no choice. Stay and accept permanent second-class status, or leave and face the unknown. They had chosen the unknown, course plotted for the dead reaches, the navigator reported. "Ma'am, I have to say, the radiation levels alone, I know," Sarah interrupted gently. "Trust the plan, Commander. Trust the readings we've been getting." Those readings had been their salvation. For 3 years, a small team of human scientists had detected anomalies in the dead reaches' organized patterns, in what everyone assumed was chaos. They had found mathematical sequences in the radiation signatures, geometric precision in the gravitational fluctuations, evidence of artificial construction. The Federation had laughed at their reports, called them desperate, delusional. Sarah had hoped they were right. The fleet entered the dead reaches, and immediately alarms shrieked. Radiation spiked. Gravitational forces tried to tear the ships apart. But Sarah had noticed something the Federation's sensors never registered. The chaos followed patterns. Specific paths existed through the maelstrom, invisible highways through hell itself. Follow the mapped coordinates exactly, she ordered. Not 1 degree of deviation. The fleet threaded through cosmic death for 18 hours. Ships were buffeted, shields strained. Crew members prayed in a dozen different languages. But slowly, impossibly, they penetrated deeper into the region every civilized species avoided. And then they found it. The gateway appeared on sensors as a sphere of perfect calm in the storm, a bubble of normal space exactly where the mathematical patterns predicted. The lead ship approached cautiously and passed through. On the other side, Sarah witnessed the first proof that humans weren't alone in being discarded. A fleet of ships waited hundreds of vessels from species she'd never seen before. As the human fleet emerged, communication channels activated. The voice that spoke was mechanical, translated through dozens of linguistic matrices. We are the forgotten. You are the latest to flee the Federation's cruelty. Welcome to refuge. Present-day New Haven Prime. Lys's shuttle descended toward a city that defied everything she knew about architecture and engineering. Massive spires reached toward an artificial sky, their surfaces shifting between organic curves and geometric precision. Gardens floated at various altitudes, connected by bridges that seemed made of solidified light. And everywhere, beings of different species moved together in harmony she had never witnessed in Federation space. New Haven Prime, Commander Vasquez said, greeting them at the landing platform. She was shorter than Lysa expected, but carried herself with quiet confidence. Population, 47 million, representing 19 species, including 8 that the Federation declared incompatible with civilized society. Lysa saw Kelverans. Their species had supposedly died out 50 years ago. Drexians, whom the Federation had exiled for cognitive incompatibility. Others she didn't recognize at all. How? The question escaped before Lysa could stop it. Let me show you. Vasquez gestured toward a transit platform. The story starts with the architects. The journey took them beneath the city, into vast caverns that predated human arrival by millions of years. Here, ancient technology still hummed with power, geometric structures of unknown materials, pulsing with energy that made Lys's sensors go haywire. The architects were the first civilization in this region of space, Vasquez explained, her voice echoing off alien walls. They achieved technological transcendence 3 million years ago. But before they departed to whatever comes next, they left this behind, a pocket dimension, stable and protected, a refuge for those who would come after. They entered a central chamber where a massive crystal construct floated, projecting images and data streams. Lysa recognized some as schematics for technology centuries beyond Federation capabilities. They left instructions, Vasquez continued, not just technology, but philosophy, guidelines for building a cooperative civilization. The catch was this: the refuge would only open for those who actually needed it. Those who had been cast out, rejected, deemed unworthy by whatever empire dominated their era. Us, Marcus said softly, and the others who fled here when we arrived 20 years ago. We found the forgotten already here 12 species that had trickled in over the past century. Survivors of Federation expansion and Federation cruelty. Alone, each species barely survived. Together, Vasquez smiled. Together, with architect technology and human adaptability, we began to build. 15 years earlier, the breakthrough, Sarah Okonkwo, now governor of New Haven Prime, watched as human engineers worked alongside Kelvran technicians and Drexian mathematicians. They were attempting something the architect instructions called harmonic drive, a propulsion system that didn't move through space, but convinced space itself to move around the ship. The equations don't make sense, the lead Drexian scientist insisted, his multifaceted eyes reflecting holographic data. We're missing something fundamental. A young human engineer named Chen looked at the problem from a different angle. What if we're thinking about it wrong? What if it's not about the math at all? Not about math? The Drexian looked scandalized. The architects kept mentioning harmony, cooperation, unity. What if the technology literally requires collaboration to function? What if a single species couldn't operate it alone? It was a radical idea, but when they rebuilt the drive with control systems requiring simultaneous input from 3 different species' cognitive patterns, something miraculous happened. The prototype engaged. Space folded around it. The impossible became routine. That was when they realized the architects hadn't just left technology. They'd left a test. A civilization that maintained hierarchies, that ranked species as superior or inferior, could never fully utilize architect knowledge. Only true cooperation unlocked its potential. The Federation could have accessed this realm long ago. They never would have understood what they found. Present day, the tour continues over the next 3 days. Lisa witnessed a society that invalidated everything she'd been taught. She visited schools where human children learned advanced mathematics from Drexian teachers, while Drexian children learned creative problem-solving from human instructors. She toured hospitals where medical techniques from 6 different species combined to treat conditions the Federation considered incurable. She attended a council session where representatives from every species debated infrastructure, developmental debate, with arguments and compromises, not the rubber stamp approval she'd seen in Federation chambers. How do you decide anything? She asked Vasquez during a quiet moment overlooking the city. Without hierarchy, without rank determining authority? We argue a lot. Vasquez laughed. It's messy, inefficient, and sometimes frustrating. But decisions made by consensus, considering everyone's needs, last longer and work better than commands from above. The Federation would say you're wasting time. The Federation wastes time maintaining inequality. We redirect that energy into actually building things. Vasquez pulled up statistics. Our per capita productivity is 47% higher than Federation averages. Innovation rate is 63% faster. Crime is virtually non-existent. Why? Because everyone has what they need, and everyone has a voice in their future. Lisa studied the data, cross-referencing it with Federation records. The numbers didn't lie. Against all logic, against centuries of Federation philosophy, this impossible society worked better. The harmonic drive, Lyssa said, changing subjects. That's how you appeared so suddenly, isn't it? How 8,000 ships emerged simultaneously. Partially, the drive lets us fold space. But coordinating that many vessels required another architect gift quantum entanglement. Communication with zero lag. Every ship in our fleet can coordinate in real time across any distance. The military implications made Lyssa's blood run cold. With that technology, the human fleet could be anywhere, instantly. The Federation's defensive strategies, built on predictable travel times and communication delays, were obsolete. You could destroy the Federation, Lyssa said quietly. Yes, Vasquez agreed. But we won't, because destruction isn't victory. Proving there's a better way, that's victory. Making people choose hope over fear, that's victory. The Federation will either adapt or collapse under the weight of its own cruelty. Either way, we've already won. Marcus joined them on the Overlook. The Forgotten taught us something important, he said. The Federation isn't evil. It's scared. Every species and power is terrified of losing that power, so they build systems to maintain it. Breaking those systems with force just creates new systems of dominance. So what do you do? Lyssa asked. We offer an alternative. We show them cooperation works. We wait for people to choose freedom. Marcus smiled. Some Federation species will adapt. Others won't. But even the species that reject us will be changed by knowing we exist. You can't unsee what's possible. That night, Lyssa stood in her assigned quarters nicer than her Federation apartment and reviewed everything she documented. Video evidence, statistical analysis, personal testimonies. The truth was undeniable. Humanity hadn't just survived. They'd thrived. They'd built something that made the Federation look primitive and cruel by comparison. And now came her choice. Return to the Federation and report what she'd found, knowing it would destabilize everything, or stay here in this impossible paradise. She thought of Thorin Kale, celebrating Earth's extinction while evidence of humanity's triumph assembled at his doorstep. She thought of High Magistrate Ven, maintaining order through oppression because he couldn't imagine any alternative. She thought of the 43,000 Federation citizens who had already requested transport to New Haven, their numbers growing every hour. The galaxy was about to change. The only question was whether that change would come through evolution or revolution. Lyssa made her decision. She would return to the Federation. She would tell them everything, and she would give them the same choice humanity had been forced to make: adapt or be left behind by history.